Come to podcast coming at you live from the OC Rock Radio Studio at Saddleback College. I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
Jared, we got a good show today. We got some NBA news, but we're going to start with the NFL news. And it's the most disappointing Super Bowl in a while, at least for us as fans, specifically me and Jared, because Jared is not an Eagles fan. He is a Cowboys fan, and I do not like the Patriots or the Eagles. So both those teams won. They're going to the Super Bowl. We have to deal with it, and we will analyze it today on the show. Jared, let's start first. How disappointed are you that the Eagles are advancing to the Super Bowl?
As the Cowboys division rival, that is almost the worst thing I could ever say, is that the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. It just, I mean, listen, you have to give them credit, though. Like, for as much as I want to sit here and say that I don't want to see this team in the Super Bowl, for Nick Foles to step up and play the way he did in the postseason, especially against the Vikings, that were supposed to have a very good defense, but obviously they didn't show up at all. You have to give them credit, man. The Eagles' defense has been good basically all year long. They've been very consistent, and the offense really hasn't missed that much of a beat. Now, obviously, Carson Wentz is the better quarterback and is that future franchise leader. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that Nick Foles should be the guy or anything like that. But he has stepped in very nicely and done a great job. And you have to give them and this entire Eagles team a lot of credit for coming in and stomping on the Vikings.
Yeah, I know that's hard for you to say, obviously.
Very tough.
Yeah.
And that's the last time I'm going to compliment the Eagles on the show.
This is reminiscent of me when the Seahawks made it a couple years ago, where it's just that team. To make it worse, that was actually played in the Cardinals Stadium, too. So the Seahawks got to sit in the Cardinals locker room for that Super Bowl as well, making it a little bit worse. I'm sure Vikings fans aren't too happy that Eagles are going to be sitting in their Vikings locker room this weekend. But let's start by actually analyzing the Patriots and Jaguars game, because this was the better game. This was intense throughout. The Jaguars looked like they had it. They looked like they were going to complete the upset. It looked like they were going to make us both look good because we said the Jaguars were going to win. And all of a sudden, the Patriots did what they always do. 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Tom Brady with some big plays at the end. And the Patriots once again get to the Super Bowl.
Mr. Fourth Quarter comeback. I'm like, the Jaguars are going to do this. The Jaguars have a legit shot.
I was so happy. I was so happy that first half.
It was 14-10. It really should have been 14-3 if the Jaguars didn't have a couple of clock malfunctions on offense. They more than likely could have added an extra field goal and potentially extended their lead even further. But still, going into halftime, I was like, man, this Jaguars team is for real. Like, yeah, they beat the Steelers and basically whooped the Steelers again. But to go up into Foxborough and, Tom Brady, not that he was playing bad, but the majority of his passing yards and both of his touchdowns were in the second half. The first half, they were basically shut down, and the Jaguars were, both sides of the ball, offense and defense, able to almost do exactly what they wanted. So, obviously, there are 2 halves to every ball game, and the reason why the Patriots are so successful is because, in my opinion, I think they are the best team, and Bill Belichick is the best coach in NFL history at making second half adjustments, period. So obviously you knew there were going to be some different wrinkles and things thrown in, and you can sit here and blame the referees for the Jaguars basically piling up 100 yards of penalties and the Patriots only getting 1 penalty for 10 yards. You can blame the Jaguars offense. There's probably a lot of different avenues and different ways you can go. The bottom line is Tom Brady was on that field, and, if he has the ball in his hands, I don't care if you're up by 30, obviously, as we all saw in last year's Super Bowl and this past Sunday, you can never count this guy out, and unfortunately, the Jaguars just didn't have that juice at the end.
Yeah, no, this wasn't a game where I'm mad about the game. There was nothing in this game that told me that the Jaguars got cheated. This was just Patriots won. It's just disappointing because the Jaguars did take a lead. It would have been different if the Jaguars kind of would have made a comeback, necessarily. The Patriots would have had the lead most of the game. But the Jaguars seemed like they had this in their hands. And they did what a lot of other teams do. They kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit and started to not manage the clock well, especially in the fourth quarter. There were some drives down deep in their zone that they did not run the clock out well at all. They were passing, stopping the clock, giving the Patriots more time. It just seemed like a team that didn't seem like they knew what they were doing in a big playoff game, and the Jaguars looked like that coming into the game, and they ended up doing it anyways. So the Patriots have so much. They've been in the playoffs so much the last couple of years. They've been in these big games. They had more of the momentum at the end. They knew what they were doing, and that's just kind of what it seemed like. It just seemed like Jaguars weren't familiar with the situation and didn't play it well, like a lot of other teams do against the Patriots.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on some of the penalties, the couple of the pass interferences, especially that one on AJ Bouye that basically that was like a 30-40 yard penalty? Do you think that was pass interference? Because there's a lot of people that are saying that's a little ticky-tack.
There's one of those penalties in every single game. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the Patriots wouldn't have won because they probably would score a touchdown on that drive anyways. Once the Patriots, here's the thing. Once they start to get the momentum in games, it's over. Okay, it's just you can kind of start to see when it's going to happen, and even though that pass interference did make a big deal, Bouye was making contact with Brandon Cooks down the field. I'm not going to say that it was completely. There was nothing on that play. I don't think it should have been pass interference, but it was kind of a all or nothing call. It was either you're going to call it or you weren't. There was something on that play. When you see Brandon Cooks extend his arm and you see AJ Bouye extend his arm on the play, you're probably going to call it as a ref. So again, I don't think that was a big deal. I also don't think Miles Jack's fumble should have been a touchdown. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, he just picked it up, took it out of his hands and ran and could have scored a touchdown. Well, first of all, he didn't. He stopped. And number two,
he spiked the ball.
Number two, nobody even knew if he actually stripped the ball. So to say that they should have scored a touchdown in the play, it's kind of ridiculous. It's like saying a guy throws a long bomb and there's pass interference and the guy would have caught it. You don't really know what would have happened. You assume. So I just think the Jaguars. It was more about them getting too conservative at the end of the game and not putting it to the Patriots. And for some reason, teams just do not understand that you can't give up against the Patriots. You can't just assume you're going to win. And you should have seen that last year when they played the Falcons in the Super Bowl and they came back from a 28-3 deficit. So for anybody that thinks you can stop and take your foot off the gas pedal against the Patriots, you cannot. And we've seen teams do that so many years in a row. And once again, the Jaguars did it to send them to the Super Bowl for like the 15th time in the last 16 years.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I was just thinking about it. Like, I'm trying to think of the years they haven't. I know when the Broncos made it, they didn't. The Ravens made it, they didn't. But other than that, I just feel like they've been in it every single year.
Yeah, I think the last 12 Super Bowls in the AFC, there's only been 3 quarterbacks. It's been Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and I think Joe Flacco made that one appearance in there. So
Peyton Manning too.
Okay, Peyton Manning. I'm sorry. Four.
It is 4.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I
can't forget Peyton Manning. But no, it's unbelievable how many times the Patriots are able to not only get to the playoffs but make it far, get to the AFC Championship game. And you know what? I mean, you have to give them credit. You can sit here and say that they have a weak division, which they do, but that's the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills. That's their fault for not having better teams and putting up a better fight. The Patriots are doing their job. And they're getting home field advantage, which obviously helped them a little bit in this game, and they're capitalizing on whether it's other teams' mistakes or just their own good fortune. So you have to give them credit where credit is due. And I think this Tom Brady, Bill Belichick head coach quarterback duo is easily going to go down as one of, if not the best in NFL history, seeing as they've already, with their Super Bowl appearances, their Super Bowl wins, just their regular season wins, just everything combined. These guys are basically unstoppable, and I mean, on a consistent basis, I don't know how they're beat.
Yeah, no, it's kind of ridiculous that they're in the Super Bowl, they're in the AFC Championship every single year. You talked about the 4 quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl, so there's been kind of a lack of parity as far as the teams, at least in the AFC, getting into the Super Bowl. How about the lack of parity in the AFC Championship game? I think it's been 7 in a row for the Patriots, right? It's so, it's just it's incredible what the Patriots are doing, and we talk about all these controversies going on with them earlier in the season a couple weeks ago, and that's just all bull crap. It just doesn't matter to them. they could all hate each other and they're still going to win a Super Bowl. So it's just football's a little different that way, to where when you have like a good coach and you have a good quarterback, it tends to work, and it tends to work for a long time. And especially when you have a quarterback, you can really get far in the league. And it's just incredible what the Patriots doing. Good for them getting to the Super Bowl. Disappointing for most fans that don't kind of want to see them anymore. But we got to deal with it. They're that good. It's for NBA fans that don't want to see the Warriors in the finals, deal with it. They're going to be in the finals.
Right.
They're going to be in the finals most of the years. So it's just that's what happens in sports. And when you have a dynasty like Alabama too in college football, you're going to have these teams in there. So let's transition to the NFC Championship, and this was a lot more of a lopsided.
We even call this a
score.
game.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch actually most of this because it was kind of boring to me watching the Eagles just kind of whoop the Vikings' ass in this game. It was boring. But the Vikings, man, that defense screwed up in this game. 38 points. And it was 38 early in that game, too. It wasn't like it was 38 and there was a couple garbage time touchdowns. The Eagles took their foot out the gas pedal, and they needed to in this game, or it was going to look real bad for the Vikings. You're going to see scores in the 50s. But, man, Nick Foles played really well, and Case Keenum didn't play well at all. And it just shows you that, Case Keenum, not that he wasn't the quarterback that everyone thought he was, but I remember I was saying, what was it? I'm trying to remember the game I was saying where I was going to call kind of BS on the quarterback. I can't remember which one it was. I felt like it was Case Keenum. It was this game. I actually did say I think Case Keenum was going to play well in this game, and he ended up not playing well. I did think they should have brought in Sam Bradford once this game got a little out of hand, but I want to get your take on it a little more since you kind of know the Eagles a little more too, watching them in your division.
Yeah, no, the Vikings just didn't show up. Well, okay, they did. They showed up for about 5 minutes because on their opening possession, they came out and scored a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kyle Rudolph scored.
Looked real good.
And basically after that, it was like, oh, okay, guys, like we scored.
And Kyle Rudolph gets to go play in the Pro Bowl this week, too.
Yeah. I'm sure he's very happy about that. I don't think so. Like, the Vikings, do you guys not understand? You have an opportunity to play in your home stadium for the Super Bowl, which has never, ever been done in NFL history. And you guys come out and you put up that crappy performance. Like, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to get your asses whooped.
It was a blowout.
In the NFC Championship game, when you have an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl, like, that was beyond pathetic. I don't even know how to put that in words. If you're Coach Mike Zimmer...
Beyond pathetic. That's
Beyond pathetic. Head Coach Mike Zimmer, you are a defensive-minded guy, right? Your defense, was non-existent. I mean, you guys did not even put up a fight. The amount of just missed plays, missed opportunities, guys not being lined up, missed assignments, missed tackles. It was just an accumulation. It was like everything that could have gone wrong for them went wrong. And I don't even know, I don't understand what they're, did they were they not scouting for the Eagles this week? Were they scouting for another team? Because it really doesn't make sense to me at all. I understand Case Keenum had 2 interceptions, 1 was returned for a touchdown, but on defense, I mean, the Eagles did whatever they wanted. Nick Foles put up 346 yards. Are you kidding? I mean, Nick Foles is a good quarterback, a solid, I don't know. I don't think he's in the top 10 at all. I don't even think he's in the top 20. But it's he's a good, solid backup quarterback. Nick Foles should not be putting up 346 yards and 3 touchdowns on the Minnesota Vikings defense. I'm sorry, that should not happen at all. So I blame a lot of this game on the Vikings defense. Offensively, yes, they should have put up more points. But you can't expect a defense to give up that many points and then your offense to just keep coming back and rallying. It's not going to happen, because then your offense, instead of being able to be balanced and being able to run the ball and mix in some play action and confuse the defense, the Eagles are sitting back and we don't have to sit here and account for the run. The Vikings are down by 20 right now. They're going to pass the ball every down, so it makes it easier, or it made it easier on the Eagles defense, and they knew what the Vikings were going to do. And listen, Case Keenum is not Tom Brady, so it was, like I said, an accumulation of a lot of bad things that happened for this Vikings team. I felt very bad for them because, like I said, I wanted to see them in the Super Bowl. More so, I did not want to see the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
That's why you didn't want to see the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
They're flying really high right now. Fortunately, they get to go up against the Patriots. I'm on that Patriots bandwagon 150%. Let's go Patriots. But no, listen, the Eagles, they obviously deserved it. They got home field advantage for a reason. This is why you do get home field advantage. There was a stat, and I forget the exact numbers, but basically it was saying the Vikings at home this season were like 7-1, and the Eagles were, I think they had the same record at home.
Yeah, they were good at
home.
So
if this game was in Minnesota, I think things would have been a lot different. And I think home field advantage played a huge factor in this game.
I think they said, you bring up that point, I think I saw a stat during that game that said teams that are in domes that go and play outdoor games in the NFC Championship, I have never won a game. They've never won the game. So, like, you can look back at the Cardinals a couple years ago, went to Carolina and didn't win. Obviously, Philadelphia, cold weather city. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that you're so used to playing indoors, and the Vikings, especially the last couple weeks, have been playing in domes. Decide, well, just, you know, that outdoor climate is a little tough to play in, obviously. In Minnesota, I'm going to not cut them slack here because they played in TCF Bank Stadium, where that was outdoors. I mean, I remember their playoff game a couple years ago was
against the Seahawks.
Against Seahawks, it was like -3 or something during the game.
Yeah.
So I think I even said that in our prediction last week that I was going to give them that excuse. I am going to blame, and we'd like to do this a lot usually, is that the Minnesota rushing attack was terrible, and this happens a lot when teams get blown out too, and it has to do with what you just said, the fact that they didn't rush a lot because they were down by so much. But I do want to put some blame on the running game as well because they didn't run good when they had the chance to. And when you can kind of see a barrage of points coming, the rushing game needs to come back and help you out. And it didn't. It also didn't help that Keenum threw the interceptions. The two big plays, though, the interception return and that long bomb from Nick Foles, the first one, that kind of, I think, was a gut punch to the Vikings because they were handling that game. They were up 7-0. Then Keenum throws the interception. Not much you can do about the return. Great return by was it Ronald Darby, I believe, returned the touchdown on that play. He made a real good effort to score, so good for him. But then the long bomb, and Foles is in the backfield for 7 seconds waiting, has so much pocket time, and then throws the ball as long as he can. It's touchdown. I think that was a gut punch, and that was really where the Eagles, it looked like they really had a chance to take over momentum, and they did exactly that. And Nick Foles played well the rest of the game as well.
Yeah, he did. So, congratulations to the Eagles. Congratulations to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Meeting in the Super Bowl, I believe it was Super Bowl, was it 38?
It was 2003 or 2004.
It was Donovan McNabb was still there. Terrell Owens was in an Eagles uniform. And obviously Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were still there as well. So another interesting fact about this Super Bowl, the Patriots are going to be wearing their away white uniforms. A little bit of a, one of those things to where I guess the last 12 out of 13 Super Bowl winners have worn white.
I saw that too.
So the Patriots, because they have the better record, and they technically will be the home team, they get to choose their jerseys. So the Patriots will be in white, and the Eagles will be wearing their home green uniforms for the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Yeah. Interesting fact.
Yeah. So we can expect the Patriots to win then.
Patriots all day.
Yeah.
Let's go. And hopefully Gronk plays. He had that big hit, took him out of the game early in the first half. He had that concussion. I'm hoping with, obviously there's nothing. The Super Bowl was until February 4th, so there'll be nothing this week. Both teams get an extra week to prepare and fly and all that stuff. So hopefully he can clear concussion protocol because he will obviously be a key factor for that team. Yeah,
no, I'm for the Patriots too. Being an NFC guy, as a Cardinals fan, I don't really want to see the NFC teams do well. So I was somewhat disappointed the Falcons didn't win last year, but there's just something about the Eagles, man. I just don't like them. I don't want to cheer for those fans. I don't want those fans to be happy in Philly for some weird reason. It makes me mad when they're happy. So I'm going to go for the AFC team too. Might as well have the team that wins every year win again and kind of show it. That both our teams aren't completely out of it in the NFC.
Right, yeah, no, those fans are ridiculous. I did see a video, and it was before the Eagles-Vikings game on Sunday.
Oh, I saw this too.
Yeah, there were Vikings fans who were walking into the stadium, and you couldn't see the Eagles fans that were doing it, but you could see there were full beer cans being thrown.
Oh, I didn't see that video.
At Vikings fans.
I saw the ones where the girl, she was going through the sea of Eagles fans, and they were all booing her and cussing at her and flipping her off, which is something you probably can expect. And she said some cool cap. It was some funny caption like, when you're at the steps of hell or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Walking through. I did not see the beer cans. I did see them pelt the Vikings bus with stuff after the game too.
Yeah.
So keep it classy, Philly.
Exactly. Can't expect anything less.
We can't say much though because the LA fans with the Lakers one kind of went nuts a little bit too. So we can't say much, but at least Cardinals and Cowboys fans are pretty tame about their wins.
They are very nice, very low key, very generous people.
Absolutely.
Instead of throwing beer cans, they would offer beer cans.
Of course.
Yeah. So
be like, get drunk with us. We lost.
Exactly.
Cowboys fans. That's what Cowboys and Cardinals fans are going to be doing this on February 4th. I'm going to be drinking because I don't really care who wins. I do want the Patriots to win, but I really don't care who wins. This is not one of those games. If the Jaguars would have been in it, I would have been 100% Jaguars.
Jaguars.
100% Jaguars against the Vikings or the Eagles. But so interesting Super Bowl. We'll do a prediction next week. Didn't want to predict 2 weeks out in advance, but then we won't have anything to talk about next week. So we'll do a full prediction next week on the Super Bowl. But Patriots and Eagles advancing to the Super Bowl. Patriots, I think, for the 55th time in a row to the Super Bowl. We'll be right back on the Cover 2 podcast. We're going to be jumping into a lot more NBA news pretty much the rest of the podcast. A lot of interesting stuff going on. The Cavs are struggling. Kawhi Leonard apparently doesn't like the Spurs anymore. And the All-Star game. Rosters were announced, and there's some questionable guys not on it and some questionable guys on the roster. So we'll talk all about that on the other side of this quick break. Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio.
Fake it to White. Looking around. Has time. Throws it. Did he get the feet down? What an effort. Touchdown, Amendola.
More men on the rush. Keenum throws. He's picked. Patrick Robinson back the other way. Looking for a block. Gets it. Robinson for the touchdown.
Nobody wants to come back more than Kawhi Leonard. I think I'm number 2. But his teammates want him back. Everybody wants him back. But he's a competitor. He wasn't Kawhi Leonard when he first arrived, the one we know now. So that shows you how much work he's put in to get here. He certainly doesn't want to be missing games. So it's frustrating for everybody, but for somebody to come up with something about him and his teammates is just silly.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are not going to make it to the finals.
Wow, you've gone from here's an intriguing matchup, let's make everybody think it's interesting, and now Cleveland's not making it.
Who's a better team in the Eastern Conference?
Make it light on yourself. It's still early. Still early.
They got too many distractions.
Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio, back for our second segment, and we're going to be diving into some NBA news, talking a little Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James specifically hitting a huge milestone, the San Antonio Spurs, and some potential drama going on with the team, and some other stuff, but I do want to start with the king, Mr. LeBron James.
Yes.
Yesterday, he became the youngest player in NBA history to reach 30,000 points. An incredible feat for him, and obviously, after he scored that point, it was right at the end of the quarter, so it was in San Antonio. A lot of the fans stood up and gave LeBron a standing ovation. All the players from the Cavaliers bench came out and kind of gave LeBron a huge high five. A very interesting note, though, LeBron was taking some heat before this game. He went on Instagram and posted basically a picture and a caption congratulating himself on reaching this milestone. Something that, you don't really see athletes or people do, congratulating themselves. I mean, obviously, peers and other people will do that for him, but do you think, Nick, it's interesting that he did that? What's your take on someone, giving yourself a pat on the back?
You know what? Michael Jordan used to do this stuff all the time. Kobe Bryant used to do this stuff all the time. It's okay if LeBron does this. I'm totally okay with it. Plus, I think he knows in this realm of social media now, Kobe and Michael Jordan kind of had to wait for an interview to say this kind of stuff. He can say this right now, and he gets to more people than anybody ever has possible as far as NBA players. I think he knew he was going to get a reaction out of it, and that's why he posted it. I like it. He knows he's one of the best players of all time. And when you look at the players that he's with now with this 30,000 points he now has, it is an absolute elite group. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think it's Malone, Kareem, Magic Johnson, Kobe, Michael Jordan, and Dirk are the 6 others there in the 3,000.
I believe Larry Bird.
Larry Bird's in it too? Okay.
He might be.
Okay, so maybe one of the guys I said in there might not be in there, but because I know it was 6. Nonetheless, doesn't matter. That's in the league group. All of those guys are legitimate first ballot, no doubt Hall of Famers. And you have to put in the discussion that LeBron is one of the best players to ever play. You can't argue that he wasn't one of the best. You can argue that he was the best or wasn't the best player, but you cannot argue that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best players to ever play. And it's fun because we've seen him play his entire career. I remember when he was at his high school in Akron, Ohio. I remember hearing that there was this really dope basketball player that was going to get drafted number 1, and he was legit. I can remember his first finals appearance with guys like Mo Williams and Ilgauskas and guys like that on his team. And I remember when he went to the Heat, and now I remember obviously him coming back to the Cavs and winning a championship with them. But good for the King. I'm glad he posted that Instagram. It's kind of funny. He patted himself on the back a little bit. I had no problem with it. But Jared, there is a little bit of a problem with the Cavs right now. And as much as we want to talk about LeBron and give him credit, there is trouble in Cleveland. And
ruin.
I'm going to say it right here, just to start the segment, too. We're only 3-4 minutes into the segment. I do not believe the Cavaliers are getting to the finals this year.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a bold statement.
I'm going to say it because they have shown me nothing the last couple weeks and months to say they are. It was almost like we just crowned them Eastern Conference champs because they have all these guys and we waited for Isaiah to come back. Isaiah has not been able to fix their problems. So I don't really think they're that good of a team. Now I've heard rumors that they're thinking about getting George Hill, and they're trying to trade some guys for George Hill. I think Shumpert was going to be in that deal.
And J.R. Smith.
Really? J.R. Smith was it? I did not know that. But good. I mean, J.R. Smith, he can't make good shots. He only makes bad shots. So you got to hope he takes a half-court shot, or else he's not going to make a shot. But I'm just going to say right here, I don't think they go to the East Finals. Your thoughts on the Cavs?
Man, that's a... I'm not going to sit here and say that the Cavs won't, because the problem is they have too much talent. It's not like this is a team that's, on the come up and they haven't been here before. They don't have any experience. They don't have the best player in the world. It's like this team on paper has everything that you need.
But the talent's not working.
It's not. And I think there's multiple issues with that. One, I don't think Isaiah Thomas is completely 100%, nor is he completely comfortable in this system yet. I think we have to remember, this is still his first year with the team.
Yeah.
He never got to practice in the offseason, right? He never got to be there for training camp or any preseason games, and he obviously missed basically almost the first half of the regular season. So it's going to take time for him to adjust. For people who thought that he was just going to come in and be the old Isaiah Thomas who's going to put up 30, 35 points a game and, completely replace Kyrie Irving, you're a fool, because that was never going to happen, at least not in the beginning. Number two, this Cavs defense is not what it used to be, in my opinion. If you watch games I watched, I believe it was last week, they were in Toronto, and Toronto basically Toronto was up by 20 in the third quarter. Toronto was doing whatever they wanted. Now, I understand they had DeMar DeRozan, who is an all-star, well-deserved, one of the best players in the league.
Is he a starter? Is he started for the all-star?
He is a starter, yes.
We'll talk about that later, so we're not going to get into that.
But, I mean, that game, I want to point out that game because I specifically watched that game. It was nationally televised. Typically, a lot of times, unless you're in the Cleveland area, you're not going to be able to see the Cavaliers play much. So I watched that game, and it's like they weren't hustling back on defense at all. They had no... energy or no will to want to. They weren't playing hard. It was, and I've said this before on the show. It's like they were bored. It's like they basically just were like, just get us to the playoffs. It's like I don't care if if we lose some games or if we catch some controversy because it doesn't seem like we're playing hard. This team right now, they're full of veterans. They don't have a lot of youth. They want to save their legs for the playoffs, and I think right now they're very bored. And they're content with kind of just getting by, and once they get to the playoffs, they feel like they can just flip a switch and think everything's going to be okay. I personally don't agree with that. I think that you need cohesiveness. You need guys playing well together. This is Dwayne Wade's first year with this team as well. So obviously he's played with LeBron and won championships with LeBron, but he hasn't played with the rest of this roster either. So it's not, Isaiah Thomas isn't the only one trying to get acclimated with this team. Another issue that, people can argue is Coach Tyronn Lue. And there's been a lot of talk of, when are you going to change this lineup, right? Like, I think Tyronn Lue, a lot of people think he's just a puppet, and that this is LeBron James' team, and Tyronn Lue is basically going to do what LeBron James wants. For the longest time, this team has stuck with the same starting five. I think the one change that they did have is, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks into the regular season, Dwayne Wade was in the starting lineup, and it was when J.R. Smith was just coming back off injury. J.R. Smith started to complain a little bit that he wasn't getting the minutes or the time that he deserved. So a lot of people, say that it was Tyronn Lue who came in and made the ultimate decision. I personally believe that Dwayne Wade, being the ultimate teammate that he is, kind of came in and said, hey, listen, I'll take a step back and come off the bench to let J.R. Smith get that starting role to keep, everyone happy. That obviously has not panned out and not worked yet. So basically what I'm trying to say, there's a lot wrong with this team right now. And I'm not going to sit here and completely disagree with your thoughts on the Cavaliers not making it to the Eastern Conference Finals or to the finals, period. Because right now they don't look like that team. I just think because of their experience, when they get into the playoffs, they can, potentially somehow put it together. But they're not showing a lot of confidence, and they're not giving off that vibe that they have that mentality and that killer instinct to do it right now.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Ty Lue. It reminds me of Byron Scott with the Lakers. He's there for one reason, and it's to kind of hold down the fort. Byron Scott was with the Lakers to make sure Kobe's last couple of years were good. It wasn't necessarily to win games and improve the team. That's why the Lakers ended up trading D'Angelo Russell and drafting Lonzo Ball. But enough about the Lakers. Tyronn Lue is there to hold down the fort, make sure the team doesn't get into despair. And right now, the team is getting into despair. And there's guys hating on Kevin Love for being sick during a game. Derrick Rose is taking months off for no reason. LeBron James is continually angry during and after games. Isaiah Thomas hasn't played well with the team. This has all the makings of Tyronn Lue getting fired. And I think if this continues, he does need to get fired. Because they're playing mediocre. They're losing. I mean, I expect them to lose now more often than I expect them to win. They play a good team, they're losing. I mean, and the tipping point for me, and this is why I'm going to say they're not going to make these kind of finals, when you give up 148 points in a game and you don't go to overtime, there's a freaking problem. The Thunder scored 148 points against them the other night, Saturday. Actually, it was a day game, so I can't say the other night. That's utterly ridiculous. And so something needs to happen. Tyronn Lue needs to start changing the lineup because J.R. Smith shouldn't be in there. He's terrible. He sucks this year. Okay, I'm not going to understate it. He's terrible. Dwayne Wade needs to be in the starting lineup. I don't care what J.R. Smith says. Just they want to trade him anyways. It doesn't even matter. They need to do something with the lineup. And if not, Tyronn Lue needs to get fired. Simple as that. But until all that happens, I'm going to say they're not going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. They might even make it through the second round. I mean, LeBron doesn't even think they'll win a single playoff series. If the playoffs were to start right now, he doesn't even think they'd win a playoff series. So jumping
the gun a little bit,
yeah.
Who is it? The Celtics? Is it the Raptors?
The Raptors.
Who are you?
The Raptors are pretty good. I actually could see the Raptors making the finals this year. DeMar DeRozan is playing like a man possessed.
Kyle Lowry.
And Kyle Lowry is also playing very well for them. So I think they're a good team. The Celtics, they're just so young. I'm not ready to say they're going to definitely get to the finals. I think they could. It does depend who they play. Obviously, if it ends up being the Raptors and Cavs in the second round, obviously would mute. It would probably give the Celtics an easier chance to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I do think the Raptors are a good team as well. So jumping the gun, I would have to say right now, I think the Raptors would get to the Eastern Conference Finals if the season ended right now, or would get to the finals. Excuse me. But the Cavs need to make some changes. That simple as that. They can't keep doing what they're doing, but they suck right now. They're not a good team.
No, not at all. They're not. And the thing is, They are a good team. They're not playing well, in my opinion.
I shouldn't say
they have the
they're
pieces.
playing like a bad team.
Yes,
right?
yes. So just one last thing on the Cavaliers. There's a lot of talk. The NBA is one of those leagues to where around the All-Star break and right up and leading up to the trade deadline is one of the leagues that has the most movement going on. There's a lot of trades. A lot of times there's a couple blockbuster trades going on. One of the interesting rumors that I'm hearing is potentially Anthony Davis
To the Cavs?
to the Cavs and or to the Celtics.
Get out of here.
There's a lot of
There's no way.
There's a lot of talk right now that the Cavs need to make a very, very bold move. So if that means moving Kevin Love and J.R. Smith and another piece or a draft pick to get Anthony Davis,
They got a good draft pick.
I mean, come on now. You put Anthony
Wow.
Davis with LeBron, and hopefully if Isaiah Thomas can figure it out and get it together, I think that elevates them back into that finals appearance spot.
People in New Orleans want to kill us right now.
Right, no, but I'm saying, listen, what's Anthony Davis doing in New Orleans? What's he doing right now?
I mean, it's struggling to make the playoffs.
Thank you. If I'm him, listen, coming out of Kentucky, he was obviously the number one pick. And he still is one of the best players in the league. But it's I don't think he gets enough credit for his play, and I think he needs to. It's finally time for him, being a veteran, to get a chance to play on a winning team and have an opportunity to win the championship. So, and even if I'm the Celtics, I'm thinking the same thing. Listen, they have Al Horford, who's a good, very solid veteran player, but Al Horford is no Anthony Davis.
Well, also Anthony Davis can play power forward too.
He can. He's versatile.
Yeah,
he can play
not.
power
He
forward,
was
he can
always
play
more
center.
of a power forward than me.
Right,
anyways.
but I mean, okay, put him on the Celtics. Pair him with Kyrie Irving. Are you kidding?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, listen, that's pretty scary right now. So if I'm the Celtics, if I'm the Raptors, if I'm the Cavaliers, I'm gonna put a feeler out to New Orleans and say, hey, would you guys be interested at all? What would you? I'm gonna ask.
We got that good draft pick.
What's the
we got
worst
young
case?
guys.
They say no. Best case, they say, that's interesting. Let us think about it. You put a proposal together. Something's gonna happen.
So you're willing to put J.R. Smith and DeMarcus Cousins on the same team?
Oh my God!
I mean, who really cares?
They're not going anywhere. Yeah, it's
cares
New
about
Orleans.
the Pelicans. This does free up. If that happens, though, frees up DeMarcus Cousins to come to the Lakers.
There you go.
See,
Right.
We're making moves right now.
There you go.
Making
All
moves.
this is moves for the Lakers. If so facto,
What's going to happen is Anthony Davis is going to come to the Cavs. They're not going to do well. They're not going to make it to the finals still.
Oh my gosh.
LeBron's going to leave, go to L.A. DeMarcus Cousins is going to leave New Orleans, go to L.A. The Lakers are going to win the championship next year.
Okay, that is.
Yep.
We're
next
talking,
week on the pod. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, we are talking very, very far
Yes.
out now. Getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We should switch topics.
A little bit.
We should switch topics. Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs. This came out of nowhere. Apparently, there's some heat between the Spurs and Kawhi around his injury and around the way they've handled his injury time and stuff like that. Jared, I don't know much about this, so can you explain to me what's going on with the Spurs?
So basically, Kawhi Leonard in the offseason, I believe it was either in August or the beginning of September, came down with a knee injury, and it was I forget the exact wording or what it was, but he came out with an injury, and right now what's going on, Kawhi is supposedly very frustrated, not necessarily with Greg Popovich, but with the training staff, and I think with how his progression or lack thereof has come so far. He's basically only played in 9 games this season. He missed the first 27. And then this past week, the Spurs were on a road trip and they were in New York, and they sent Kawhi back home to San Antonio to continue his rehab because, from Greg Popovich's words, Kawhi came out and said that, it's still not feeling right. So there's a lot of different reports going out. Greg Popovich has been interviewed multiple times saying that this is no big deal. This is an internal thing. There's not really any beef going on. It's just a matter of Kawhi is frustrated because his knee is not getting better. It has nothing to do with him not wanting to be with his organization or anything like that. Now, the media side is coming out and saying that Kawhi is very frustrated with the entire organization. There is a chance that he doesn't want to be with his team long term anymore. So those are obviously two very different reports that are coming out. I'm not going to sit here and necessarily say that I agree or believe the reports that Kawhi wants to leave, because if you have Greg Popovich as your head coach, multiple NBA champion winner, I mean, you better have a damn good reason to leave that.
Yeah.
So I don't really believe that. I think more or less he's just very frustrated that his injury has not gotten better and that he's not able to play. He's a competitor. He wants to be out there with his team and win. The Spurs are right now still sitting at the number 3 seed. They're 30-18, and I believe they're tied with, I forget who they're tied with, but they're tied for the 3rd seed right now. So obviously they're still in big time contention.
That's
and they're
crazy.
in the hunt.
They're the 3rd
I know,
seed.
right? So you put Kawhi Leonard back in that lineup healthy, and this Spurs team is probably contending for the number 2 spot and right there on the Warriors' heels. So I think more or less he wants to get back out there. He wants to play, and hopefully he can soon, because he's one of the best players in the NBA, and it's, you want to see stars on the court.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'm going to come out and say this. The thing about him wanting to leave the team, that's a typical media thing where it's always the worst possible thing, or it's always that guy's going to the Lakers kind of thing, So I don't necessarily know I don't really think that's true. I do understand completely, though, after your good explanation, that I would be mad, too, about this stupid injury thing. I mean, just, how about this? Why is he playing if he's still injured? He should have sat out the entire time until he wasn't injured. The Spurs know they're going to make the playoffs. They got a good enough roster without Kawhi to make the playoffs. If you have Kawhi, it doesn't really matter who you're playing in the 1st and 2nd rounds. If you want to win a championship, you got to beat everybody anyways. So what does it matter? I don't really think they should have brought him back until he was fully healthy anyways. I think that was the first. It was the first mistake. But to send him home when he's supposed to be playing, it's just stupid. And I would be mad at that too. I think it's simply that. I think this is just simply Kawhi is frustrated and mad with the way they've handled his injury. I think he wants to just be healthy. He's tired of not being healthy, and I think his frustrations are now showing. And it's understandable. I don't think this is that big of a deal. I don't think the Spurs are going to trade him to the Cavs. I don't think Kawhi's leaving the Spurs, because of all this. I just think this is just a frustration. I think it's just building because he's probably been hurt for a very long time and he wants it to be over with. And it's understandable. And I would be too. I'd be mad too. But I think this will all clear up. I don't necessarily think the Spurs are a super contender to win the finals this year. I still think the Rockets are a very good team, and obviously the Warriors. So I think this year might be a little bit of a lost season for the Spurs, but as far as the future and Kawhi leaving the team because of this, I think that's a little overshadowed.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think for him to say that he wants to leave, like I said, it would have to be
you want to leave the Spurs, bro? Come on,
circumstance. You would have to. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Like, you'd have to go to Cleveland. You're not going to go to just any other Joe Schmo team and leave the Spurs and leave that organization. Unless someone was just going to pay you an astronomical amount of money, like $300 million or something ridiculous. So I don't see that happening. Hopefully, listen, that's where contracts are going.
$60 million a year.
Russell Westbrook just signed like a $200 million deal. So in 5-10 years,
that's $200 million though.
I know, but I'm saying
doubling that.
Yeah, in 5-10 years, where do you think these contracts are going to go? They're only going up and up. So one day it's going to get there. Just wait, trust me. But no, for Kawhi, listen, man, just hold out, stay put, get your rehab done, get back on the court, because I'm a big fan of Kawhi Leonard. I want to see him on the court, and I want to see him playing and competing. And another thing is, I want this Spurs team, not to say that I'm rooting for the Spurs, but I want them to contend. I want more contenders for the Warriors. I don't want this to just be a cakewalk, not that it would be, because the Western Conference is a lot more competitive than the Eastern Conference. But I want to see competitive teams going up against the Warriors and giving them, a fight in the playoffs. I don't want the Warriors just going out and sweeping teams all across the board. So if Kawhi Leonard's on the court, it would at least give them, I could see them winning a couple games, at least the Warriors, potentially. So get healthy, get back, and I think the Spurs will be just fine.
Absolutely. I'd like to see more parity in the league, too. At the East, we're looking at it, and the Cavs suck, and I'm saying they're not going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're still a very good team, and they're probably going to get there. The Raptors are good. They're legitimately good. The Celtics are legitimately good. And it would be nice if the West had three super teams that really had a chance. Right now, I don't think the Spurs are that, and I think the way this injuries thing going, I don't really think they have a chance. I like the Rockets a lot. Obviously, the Warriors. I'm trying to remember who is the fifth. Is the fifth seed the Thunder? Or the fourth seed? My bad. I think the fifth seed. Personally, I think the fifth seed will eventually be the Clippers, because they've been playing great. But who is the fourth seed right now in the Western Conference? Okay,
so technically it's the Spurs.
It's the Spurs and the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are good too. Yeah, so you have a lot of good teams. I do think that the Spurs are better than Timberwolves, especially with Kawhi. But yeah, you're right. I want to see him come back. I like Kawhi. He's one of my favorite players to watch too. So he needs to get better. Spurs need to figure that stuff out, because we don't need to be hearing Kawhi leaving the Spurs. But all that does is just you're going to create another super team in the league with Kawhi leaving, and it's the last thing we need in the NBA. So. We'll be right back, and Jared, we have an interesting segment next. I think we do this every podcast. To be honest,
yes. So
if I'm
fans
not mistaken,
should know now.
It's Do You Care? If we're talking about, we got a lot of questions today too. We got more than usual, so we got some good ones, all different sports. We're going to talk about fired coaches. Going to be talking about football. Going to be talking about Kobe and other things. So we'll be right back on the Cover 2 podcast with Do You Care?
So today I'm thrilled with Steve Keim, our great general manager, who will be here to answer questions as well, to introduce our head coach, Steve Wilks. Please join me.
LeVar Ball put on a suit and was an assistant coach for his son's Lithuanian team yesterday. LiAngelo and LaMelo combined for 80 points in the win.
I will be joining the Brotherhood of Duke University.
Dear basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you.
It's time for Do You Care? Our favorite segment on the show here on the Cover 2 podcast. Jared, we got a lot of questions today. We got more than usual. So
I'm okay with that.
Let's just get started. Why wait anymore and talk to each other for no reason? Jared, I'll ask you the first question since I'm talking. Jared, do you care that Jason Kidd was fired as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach?
No, I do not care, but this was very, very surprising. Jason Kidd, in his first year as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach, led kind of a magnificent turnaround. The Bucks were one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference the year before. Jason Kidd comes in, turns that team around. I believe they end up making 2 straight playoff appearances. Now, obviously, they didn't really do much in those playoff appearances at all because LeBron James and the Cavaliers still run that East. But for now, right. But it's pretty amazing. Jason Kidd obviously is most well known for his time as an NBA player, and it was when he retired, he went straight into coaching as a head coach. One of the very, very few instances where a player goes straight in as a head coach and does not, kind of go up through the ranks as far as becoming an assistant. Obviously, he has a lot of knowledge of the game, but it's just very rare. I believe it happened with Derek Fisher, but you don't see too many players transition right into a head coaching role. Usually organizations want guys to get a couple years of assistant experience under their belt and that type of thing. But obviously Jason Kidd went right into it. And it paid off for a little while. Unfortunately, the Milwaukee Bucks wanted to make a change. And really, I think this factor from the reports that I was reading, a lot of it came down to the offensive schemes and the way that this offense played. Listen, in the East, you're contending with the Cavaliers, the Celtics, and the Toronto Raptors, all who can potentially have lethal offenses. The Bucks obviously have Giannis on their team, who is a freak, and I mean, he doesn't really get the recognition that I think he deserves because he plays in Milwaukee. Milwaukee rarely gets nationally televised games, so unless you are a basketball fan, I don't really think there's too many people who get to see him on a nightly in and out basis like you would a LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard or something like that. So, but supposedly it was interesting. I guess that the team, was running a lot of this by Giannis and was kind of, Giannis supposedly was the one who went up to Jason Kidd and told him he was getting fired before Jason Kidd found out from the organization. And Giannis was obviously in Jason Kidd's court and said, hey, like, how can I help you? What can I do to fight for you? All this stuff. And Jason Kidd was like, hey, listen, man, if they want to let me go, they're the bosses. They write the checks. They're going to let me go. So kind of an interesting dynamic. You know, it almost seems like with the Cavaliers, with LeBron James, everyone kind of knows that LeBron runs that organization. With Giannis, it kind of seems like the same thing here. Like, the Bucks understand that Giannis is their best player. He is the all-star. He really is the only reason why the Bucks would be relevant in the first place. So they want to keep him happy.
Yeah.
I don't know that letting Jason Kidd go was, the way of making him happy, but that's how it goes in the NBA, and that's how it goes if you're a coach. Eventually your time's going to run out and you're going to get fired. So he will get picked up by another team, whether it's an assistant or a head coach, because he's a great guy and he does have a lot of camaraderie within the league. So it won't be long before he gets another shot in the league. Nick, sticking with the NBA and with basketball, do you care that Mr. Kobe Bryant is being nominated for an Oscar?
I don't necessarily. I don't really care. No. I don't really watch those award shows, so I don't really care who wins or anything like that. But good for Kobe. Obviously, he's not just a hard worker on the court. He's a hard worker off the court, and it seems like in his life, he seems to set foot on something, and he kind of just goes straight forward 100%. And you can see this obviously with his Dear Basketball getting nominated for an Oscar in a short film. But just good for Kobe. Not much to say about it. I don't really care that he's getting nominated, but good for him. It's always nice to see a star like that get recognized in something that's not sports. It's always interesting to see. So we'll see. When are the Oscars, by the way? Are they like a couple weeks away from now?
I don't exactly know.
I don't know
when they
either.
are.
Yeah, I don't really know. I know that. Well, I know they're probably not either this weekend or next weekend because of the football necessarily. But
Yes.
Yeah, that should be interesting to watch. Jarrett, do you care that Duke now has the top 3 recruits for next year's team?
Yes, I do care. Listen, even for Coach K, this is a big deal. You don't really see, especially in college basketball, teams and programs that can basically sweep the top 3. I mean,
this is the top 3 in the nation.
In the nation, yeah. A lot of times, you can get the first guy or maybe the second and the fifth guy, but to literally get the first, second, and third best recruits in the 2018 class, finishing off with Zion Williams, who is the internet sensation high school player who's got those crazy dunks, and he's just a beast of a high school
Looks
kid.
like he's 27.
He does. He is big. More than likely will play like a small forward, power forward position at Duke, depending on what Coach K wants to do. But no, this is, how I know this is a really big deal. John Calipari, the head coach at Kentucky,
I saw this.
Came out, and was this yesterday or was this
yesterday?
Yesterday, and I didn't listen to the entire interview, but he basically came out and he was throwing a lot of shade at Duke. Basically saying, I don't know how this was kind of done within the scope of the NCAA, and how was there some shady things going on. Basically, he along with basically every other college program in the nation are jealous that Duke was able to land the top 3 recruits.
Yeah.
And more than likely, Duke is going to be the favorite to win the national championship for the next year, possibly a couple years ahead. So I have to congratulate Coach K. I am a Duke fan more or less because of Coach K, but I do like to follow their players. Listen, this team is going to continue to roll. Coach K did kind of change his philosophy because for the longest time, he was not a fan at all of players coming in and being one and done. He wanted players to stay through at least their junior year, kind of build their bodies a little more, become more of a student of the game, and he felt that they would have more success going into the NBA. But just because of the way that college basketball is run now, if you're not going, a lot of these recruits understand that they can be one and done, and they want to go get that money and get into the NBA. So he had to change up his recruiting raise, and obviously, as you see, landing the top 3 recruits, that has definitely changed and helped in his favor. So good for him. Nick, do you care that Major League Baseball is announcing the newest Hall of Fame members.
Yes, and this is an interesting year, too, because it's looking like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are really close to making the Hall of Fame. Not necessarily going to make the Hall of Fame. There's some procedure that the MLB does to show you what the voting has been like lately. I don't know. I guess it's maybe just taking polls of like the writers who are the voters for the Hall of Fame and getting kind of their takes. And what the takes have been is essentially Clemens and Bonds have 64% of the vote. The vote to get into the Hall of Fame is 75. So that's the closest it's ever been for those two guys who have been marred with steroid allegations their entire career. So obviously it'd be super interesting if tonight they announced that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are in the Hall of Fame, because I will definitely be sitting down in June and watching those speeches and hearing the coverage of those guys for the next couple years. But as far as the guys that are not tainted, it's guys like Chipper Jones, guys like Jim Thome, Trevor Hoffman and Vlad should get in this year. Those are just guys off the top of my head that I think should get in. There's probably more. I think there's about 5 or 6 that people expect to get in. But it's always interesting today to see who gets in with baseball, because baseball, at least in my opinion, has one of the best Hall of Fames in sports. Just there's been so many legendary players in their Hall of Fame, and it's one of the few sports that's gone back so far in history that when you make the MLB Hall of Fame, it's a little different than making most Hall of Fames, at least in my opinion. So I'm excited to see, and obviously it'd be a big deal if one of the steroid guys got in as well. Jared, do you care that the Senior Bowl is this weekend?
I do care. I'm a big fan of the Senior Bowl and just the entire NFL draft process in general. Obviously, I would love it if my Dallas Cowboys were in the Super Bowl right now, but they are not.
Actually, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Just another stab in the heart. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So for the just about every other team in the league that is not the Patriots and the Eagles, a lot of their attention is now turned to the draft process. And the first part of that process is going to the Senior Bowl, where obviously the key word is senior. If you are a senior coming out of college and you are draft eligible, then you can come to this Senior Bowl week of practice and play in the Senior Bowl game, which will be this upcoming Saturday. And basically what this is, it's an extra opportunity for you to get film out there for teams and for coaches and for scouts. So listen, even it depends, Baker Mayfield is out there. Kyle Rudolph will not be out there for Oklahoma State. He is dealing with...
He got hurt, didn't he?
Yes, he's dealing with an injury. And he is going to, I believe, miss the entire week. And I think it's more precautionary. I think if it was a game situation, he would more than likely play. But obviously, he wants to be healthy for the scouting combine and obviously for the... when we get into summer for training camp and all that good stuff. Josh Allen, probably the most notable quarterback who Mel Kiper Jr. has as his number 1 overall quarterback and being selected number 1 by the Cleveland Browns in his mock draft. He will also be in attendance. So there's a lot of well-named, not only quarterbacks, but well-named athletes that are going to be in the Senior Bowl. And like I said, it's another opportunity for these guys to get film out there and basically raise their draft stock, because the higher they get drafted, the more money they get. Obviously, that's what every guy wants. So I'm very excited to see that, and I can't wait for the scouting combine and the whole draft process to go through. It's a fun time. It's obviously you have to be somewhat of an NFL junkie to want to do this, because it's kind of boring. It's not a lot of people sit here and follow every college player and their journey and where their draft status is going to be and every team's draft needs. So it's a lot that goes into it, but I think it's very, very exciting. Hopefully later on down the road we can have somewhat of a draft show, at least for the first round, and kind of have a mock draft, pick who we think is going to go in the first round for all 32 teams. So that's something that'll be coming up soon in the podcast, so stay tuned for that. But can't wait for this Saturday's games. Nick, sticking with football, do you care that the NFL Pro Bowl is this Sunday?
No, I tend not to watch the Pro Bowl. The NHL All-Star Game is actually this weekend as well, so I'll probably catch that rather than the Pro Bowl. That's just because the Pro Bowl, I would watch it if they tried, but they just tend not to try. I might catch some of the skills competition that's going on. Heard Phillip Rivers did really well in one of the tournaments. So not that I'm a giant Phillip Rivers fan, but like it is still interesting to see the guys kind of compete like that because they actually do try in those necessarily. But the game's kind of boring. And Larry Fitzgerald's not playing in it either, which would have been potentially his last game. Hopefully not. But I'm not interested in the game. If they would try harder, I'd watch it, but they don't, so I'm not going to watch it. Jared, you're going to love this question, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Do you care that LeVar Ball,
I think
you know who LeVar Ball is, right? LeVar Ball is now coach in Lithuania.
Didn't we say we weren't going to talk about LeVar Ball anymore?
Yeah, but now, but now he's the coach in Lithuania, so now we have to talk about it.
Oh, my intern.
So do you care, Jared?
Do I care? Hell no, I don't care. Are you kidding? Listen, there's going to be a lot of attention to this. Obviously, in my opinion, this is just another marketing strategy. The big baller challenge, tournament, whatever you want to call it, that Lithuania is putting on,
BBC.
basically to get LeVar Ball and this brand out there, to get more fans in the seats, to get 1,500 fans instead of 1,000 fans in the seats. Listen, apparently this worked for the first game because LiAngelo and LaMelo combined for 80 points.
Damn.
And the first game that LeVar Ball coached, and they came out with, I think it was like a 147 to 142 win. So obviously defense is not the name of the game for these guys, but maybe they have something going. Supposedly the Lithuanian head coach wanted LeVar Ball in there, to obviously make a name and have people talk about this. But LeVar Ball wanted to come in and up the tempo. He likes to be up and down the court, almost like Mike D'Antoni of the Houston Rockets, like that 7-second offense. He wants, fast breaks, up and down play, exciting, long 3-pointers, all that good stuff, and basically no defense. So if you're cool with that, that's great. I don't really think that's real basketball. I think that's all for show. And I'm done talking about it because I'm already sick of it. So, Nick, last question for you, and this one is about one of your favorite teams. Do you care that your Arizona Cardinals have hired Steve Wilks as their new head coach?
Yes, I do care. Excited to have Steve Wilks as our new head coach. Obviously, with Bruce Arians retiring, not getting fired, keyword there, retiring, the Cardinals need to find a coach. There was some questions on whether they were going to wait till the end of the Super Bowl to maybe interview Brian Flores or John DeFilippo. But they settled on Steve Wilks, and based on the press conference yesterday that I watched, they kind of knew it was going to be Steve Wilks for a while. There was a meeting I believe, on a beach in North Carolina that impressed our GM, Steve Keim. Him and Steve Wilks ended up being at the same hotel at the same exact time. And Wilks actually introduced himself to Keim. Keim was impressed with what he said. Obviously, they had a meeting about football as well, and about being a football coach. And it went really well, from what I heard, because obviously he's now our coach. Comes with a defensive mindset, because he was the defensive coordinator in Carolina. I believe when he was named defensive coordinator, as he used to be a DB's coach with the Chargers and also with the Carolina Panthers, they went from 21st in defense to 7th. So the guy, obviously did a great job and deserved to get a raise and a promotion. Interesting enough, the Cardinals kind of do need help on offense, so there is some questions there on why they're going with a defensive coach. But there are rumors that we might hire John DeFilippo as our offensive coordinator as well, which I think would be a great coaching tandem. So we've also interviewed Darrell Bevell, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. Not too happy about that, but the Seahawks offense hasn't been that good. And we're also interviewing some other guys today. So, happy to have Steve Wilks. He seems like a good coach. Seems like a hard-nosed guy. He's going to keep the players in check. And excited to have Steve Wilks as our coach. Definitely care about that subject. That's the end of the Do You Care segment. We are coming back. We are going to analyze the NBA All-Star Game and the NBA All-Star starters, because there are some guys that we both like that got snubbed.
Lots of snubs.
Yeah, lots of snubs. A little more snubs than usual this year. I think because there's some question on why certain teams have 4 guys on the team. We'll be right back on the Cover 2 podcast with all that All-Star Game news.
Get down to business, fellas. We're here to announce the All-Star reserves, but before we get there, let's recap the West starters. And you guys know Boogie Cousins. He had Wilt Chamberlain or S-like numbers last night. That's Shaq-like numbers he had last night. And if you want to look at Curry, who's the captain, and you all know Durant, Harden, and Anthony Davis. Fellas, let's just recap. Team LeBron, who's the captain, he can pick his team out of East or Western players. Hey, you guys think he'll pick Kyrie?
Oh, if I'm him, I'm taking Durant first.
Oh, yeah, you got to take Durant.
I'm taking KD first.
Okay, if Kyrie third, you think he's going to pick him?
Yeah, I think he would.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
It looked like he missed him.
Yeah, like one of the good point guard, right?
Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio, final segment of the show, talking about the NBA All-Star Game, the starters, the reserves, the snubs, and the different format going on this year, not having the traditional East versus West. We have 2 team captains, one named LeBron James, one named Stephen Curry, and they will basically pick their starting lineup along with their reserves. So an interesting way. The NBA in the last couple years has not been too fond of the way that the All-Star Game has gone. There's literally been no defense at all.
Yes.
Teams are scoring. The West has basically scored almost 200 points the last couple of years. So, they're trying to, I guess, put it into the players' hands and say, hey, you guys pick your own teams, and we want to see more competitive ball. So we'll see how that pans out. But, Nick, I want to get your initial thoughts. We've got LeBron James and Stephen Curry as the 2 team captains. I've got the list of the All-Star starters and reserves. So have at it, my man. Do you agree or disagree with this list?
Let me start with just commenting real quick on the format. I do like 2 things the NBA has done. Number 1, changing the format because I think it will make it a little more competitive. LeBron won't necessarily want to lose in the All-Star game because he's going to lose every game with the Cavs before that. So it might be his one chance to win a game in the recent future. Just joking, of course, about that. But I do think the game will be more competitive because of that, and it will also be entertaining. I do wish the NBA televised the draft like hockey used to, though. That's kind of dumb that they don't do that, especially knowing that people would watch that, too. I mean, if people watch actual drafts, people are going to watch, them pick the All-Star game, especially with all those big personalities. Number 2, the process of actually picking the starters as well. I think the fan vote now is only 25% of the vote, so the fans can't vote in Kobe every year like they were, or vote in like a 40-year-old Shaq. Obviously, I get that the fans want to see those guys in it, but if they clearly don't deserve to be in the All-Star game, then you get snubs and legitimate snubs when a guy like Kobe makes it when he clearly is an All-Star. So I love that too. Now, getting to the actual starting lineups, I'll start with that. Starting lineups actually look pretty good to me. It was interesting that they put 2 centers for both teams, or one center for each team, 2 centers, period, for the starters. Joel Embiid and DeMarcus Cousins, legitimate centers, making the team. It's first time in a while. I like that just because I think that the center position has been, funny enough, snubbed the last couple of years just in the NBA period as far as talking about best players in the league. So I think to have a guy like Joel Embiid, have a guy like DeMarcus Cousins in there, that is entertaining. I do believe, though, for the West team, we were talking about this before the break, Russell Westbrook probably should be a starter in that lineup. So I guess maybe the one guy that would get snubbed is DeMarcus Cousins. But hey, you got centers in the lineup. Centers are in the position in a normal NBA lineup, so to have him as a starter makes sense as well. The West, just listing it, it's Steph Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins. And for the East, Kyrie Irving, DeMar DeRozan, LeBron James, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those guys all make sense as starters. I think the only question is how Russell Westbrook didn't get in, but I just explained that. They decided to put a center in instead. So not really any questions with the starters at all. Now, to the reserves, and I'll let you talk right after this. We both think there's definitely been snubs. I personally think that Lou Williams should have been on the Western team. I also thought that Devin Booker could have had a shot at being on the team. Those were 2 minds that came out to me. I'll let you talk now about the reserves and who you thought got snubbed, because I have a easy fix for this that I'll say right after.
Oh, yeah, no, I more so agree with Devin Booker. He doesn't get the recognition that he deserves because he also plays in a smaller market in Phoenix.
Terrible
and because
team,
they're
too.
just a terrible team. So, you need to win and, show that you are an all-star. Like, you can carry a team. So, but Devin Booker, I mean, he should have been on this list. It's tough to sit here and say who you're going to take off. There is one player that I would take off, and I think we both agree with that, and that would be Mr. Draymond Green.
Draymond Green.
And we'll get into that in a moment as well. Devin Booker for sure. Lou Williams, I think he's having a fantastic year, but the reason why I don't think Lou Williams is getting this, or why he essentially got snubbed, is because he's basically really looked at as more of a sixth man type of guy. He, for most of his career, has really come off the bench, and he is a scorer. I mean, that's what he does. He likes those fadeaway shots. He shoots from anywhere on the court. But I think because he has that just he's basically gotten that look of being the sixth man, and that's kind of been his role. I don't think a lot of people see him as a starter or as a guy who, can consistently change a team. And a lot of these reserves and starters, you put these guys on any team and they're going to make more of an impact than Lou Williams can. So, listen, I think he should have been in the conversation, but I'm not as surprised that he got snubbed. Devin Booker, I wish he was on this team. Going to the starters, I have a little bit of a problem with him necessarily putting a traditional center in this game.
Okay.
I get that they want a little bit more defense, right? But who's to say that whoever the coaches are for the East and the West, that they don't start this team and then 2 minutes into the game they take out the center, like, right? Because you want obviously a balance of competitiveness and you want the ratings and you want fans to be involved, but then you also want some type of defense. If this were me, I would take out DeMarcus Cousins. I would put Anthony Davis at the 5 because I think he's versatile enough to do that. And I would add Russell Westbrook into that starting lineup. I feel that Russell Westbrook has been more deserving of being a starter than DeMarcus Cousins have. I would have DeMarcus come off the bench and be one of the reserves. I would have Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook in the backcourt. In the front court, I would put James Harden as the 3, Kevin Durant as the 4, Anthony Davis as the 5.
That is such a nasty lineup.
It is a ridiculous, fast
those 4
lineup.
Guys, and then Anthony Davis is ridiculous.
That lineup, I think, would run any court, anytime, anywhere. So that is where my little argument would be as far as the starters go. I will say I'm very, very happy for Damian Lillard, who finally made the All-Star team. He has definitely been snubbed the last couple of years. I think, he's been the one guy who has been most deserving of making the All-Star team, who has not in the last few years. So very happy that he's finally getting his chance because he is a very, very special point guard, and he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves either.
Yeah, a couple new guys in there too. Karl Anthony Towns.
Very well deserving.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a great year with Minnesota. Kristaps Porzingis in the East. Fantastic year. Bradley Beal. Well deserved. And also Victor Oladipo. I didn't even see that over there. So, it's funny. I saw on the top, we're looking at this ESPN page, and it says a star donates first selection. And I saw a star next to LeBron James' name. I'm like, wait a minute, it's not his first selection. And it said team captains. No reason for me to even say that. Probably cut it out of the podcast. But nonetheless.
What do you think about
saying?
Kevin Love? I just noticed that, and I didn't really see that when I was going through earlier. Kevin Love.
I didn't see Kevin Love on that roster either.
Yeah. What do we...
Kevin Love. Why is Kevin Love on the roster, Jared? How did we not see that? I like Al Horford, by the way. You keep the marker was on Al Horford. So I'm like, I thought you were questioning Al Horford.
No. Al Horford is very under-recognized and underappreciated for what he does because he's not a true center. He doesn't have that height or that length, but he does so much dirty work and he does stuff that doesn't necessarily get on the stat sheet. He's kind of a boring
player on that Boston Celtics team.
Yes, he is, but he is very, very much a part of that team. And if it weren't for him, the Celtics would not be where they are right now.
Here's what I hope happens with Kevin Love. I hope he gets sick like he did the other day and he doesn't play.
Oh.
Okay. Kevin Love shouldn't be on the team. I get, and here's the problem with the NBA All-Star Game too. And this is what right after this I'll say my fix. They tend to pick guys from good teams that may not 100% be better than other guys to make the team. What I mean by that is like The Cavs are good, so they're going to put 2 guys on the team. They're not going to put 1. The Celtics are good, so they're going to put 2 guys on the team. Sometimes it works out. The Warriors, in this case, it didn't work out. I don't think Draymond Green is an all-star. I don't think he can score. So I don't think you being a great rebounder and a great defender necessarily gets you on the all-star team on the West, where there's guys like Devin Booker, there's guys like Lou Williams, and there's guys like Chris Paul that get snubbed because you're on a really good team, essentially. So I don't think that's okay. I think the NBA has a little bit of a problem with that. Now, my fix for this, simply add more spots. There's 15 guys in a normal NBA roster. Why not have 15 guys on each team? I don't understand how that's not an easy fix. Lou Williams, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul make the team, if that's true. The East has more guys in it as well, although I think the East is that team's pretty solid. I think Kevin Love doesn't necessarily deserve to be in, but he's still a great player. But I think just add 15 guys. The MLB has 40-man rosters for the All-Star game, or at least more than a 25-man roster that gets to play. So they do it already. The NFL fills out their rosters. They don't have, they don't have less spots. So I don't know why the NBA only does 12. To say that there's only 24 All-Stars in the NBA is kind of ridiculous. I think if you add 30, that's 10% of the league. You get or 10% of what do you call it? Spots. Actually, it didn't make a lot of sense what I was about to say there, so I'm just going to change topics. But I do think, why not add 15 spots, I don't mean 15 extra spots. I mean 3 extra spots. Because then you get in these guys, and if you get snubbed then it's hard to argue, too.
Yeah, I think the reason why they potentially don't add 15 is because they do want guys to get some of the spotlight. Like listen, on a 15-man roster, 15 guys don't play in a regular season game, typically, right? You typically have probably 12 guys at max that really play. You probably have a couple guys that sit on the bench the majority of the game and really don't see playing action unless there's some type of blowout. So I think for the All-Star game, you want to expose and show these guys and let them get 6-7 minutes of playing time. If you had 15 guys on a team and you wanted to get every guy on, guys would be getting only 3-4 minutes of playing time per quarter. So I think they want to give these guys more opportunity, which is why they don't have those extra 3 spots. But I get what you're saying, and right, it would obviously create less snubs, and you would get the Chris Pauls and the Devin Bookers of the world into this lineup. But listen, as long as Chris Paul, every year he can be an all-star. When he's healthy, he is an all-star. So just because these guys don't necessarily make it every year, it doesn't mean they're not all-stars. Really, if you follow basketball and you're a fan, you know that Chris Paul, what he means to the Rockets and that organization.
Just missed too many games.
Right, exactly. So if Chris Paul was healthy for the majority of the season, you could, maybe Damian Lillard wouldn't be there. And he'd probably be snubbed again. So just because Chris Paul isn't on there this year doesn't mean that he is not an all-star. An interesting fact that I wanted to say. The 2 team captains, LeBron James and Stephen Curry, I have zero issue with that. I think it's great.
No, totally.
They're 2 stars. They're 2 faces of the NBA and their franchises. I totally get it. You know what I would have loved to see? Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook be the captains, and them have to go back and forth and pick teams and then go up against each other.
Well, the problem is he wasn't the starter, so it might have happened if he was a starter. But
right. I would have loved to see that.
I kind of want to see them play again. I actually would rather not have them as team captains.
Yeah, no, I hope they don't. I hope Steph picks Westbrook and LeBron takes Kevin Durant, and I want to see them go at it. I want to see mano-a-mano, one-on-one, like everyone else just move to the side, street ball, best man wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? This might be a little controversial. If the NBA wants, they're making it so that the West is not going to dominate the East in this game, correct? The reason they changed the rule here for the draft and all that stuff is so that there's going to be guys in the East with the West players and guys from the West specifically playing with the East players. Why, if they're doing that, don't they just pick an all-star team based on that it doesn't matter where you're from? Why don't they just pick the 24 best players in the NBA? You know what I'm saying? Why does, let's say, Kevin Love make the team just because he's in the East? Why does it have to be geographical if they're not even going to play the game that way?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
It's also another way to fix snubs because guys like Devin Booker and Lou Williams and Chris Paul probably would have been on the team.
Right.
Because they're better than a lot of those Eastern Conference guys. And why, just because they play in the East, are they NBA All-Stars? That's what I'm saying. We're stubbing guys because of geographical regions, which doesn't make a lot of sense either. So, it's only because they changed the rule. If it was West versus East, it's different. But because they changed the rule to make it where the West and East really don't matter for this game at all, it's Team LeBron, Team Curry, why are they picking 12 guys in the West, 12 guys in the East? And why
so you're saying you'd be okay with 20 guys from the West?
If that's the best players, because that's the way the NBA is set up right now. The best players are over in the West, and that's why they had to change the rule. So why not just change the rule completely? That's probably not going to happen because too many hurt feelings. But I just think maybe a guy like a guy like Kevin Love or Al Horford doesn't make the team because those guys, Devin Booker is better than both those guys in my opinion. So, that's just a thought. That and the 15 spots, because I think then you have 3 lineups and stuff like that. But just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Something that I didn't think about, and who knows? Maybe in a couple years, if this format doesn't specifically work out, I think the NBA is open to change.
Yeah.
And what they want is they want fans watching, they want people interested, and they want a buzz. They want people talking about it. So obviously, with this change, people are talking about it. We'll see how it goes. We'll see who LeBron and Steph Curry pick, and we'll see if it works out. I'm going to watch because obviously this is the first time that this has happened. But anytime there is any type of change from the norm, it's going to generate a little bit of buzz initially.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm excited to see Joel Embiid in the All-Star game.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a starter, too, so he's going to be up there.
Right.
Real quick, who is first pick? Who do you think they pick first?
Ooh,
do you think it's more best player, or do you think it's like?
I think it's relationships and connections.
Okay, so I personally think that Kevin Durant should be the number 1 pick.
Really?
But
okay,
does LeBron maybe pick Kyrie Irving first if he has first pick?
I don't think there's any way he picks Kyrie first.
Really? Okay. No. Well, I'm just saying that'd be a lot. That'd be pretty interesting.
LeBron said he's coming out and he wants to win.
See, I told you.
He wants to create a winning team.
His team loses, so now he has to win.
Yeah. If I'm LeBron, Kyrie Irving is probably the best. It's tough to say. Him and Russell Westbrook probably the 2 best point guards out there right now. I would, if I'm LeBron or Steph, whoever gets the first overall pick, Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying, do you think that will happen, or do you? What if Curry gets the first pick?
Kevin Durant.
So you just pick Kevin Durant. He doesn't go, I'll play against Kevin Durant this week.
Kevin Durant.
Okay, so you're set on Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant.
Okay, all right. I think that's the end of the segment there because Kevin Durant's going to be the number 1 pick.
Kevin Durant. Nothing else needs to be said.
Nothing else. No James Harden. No Anthony Davis. No Joel Embiid.
Kevin Durant.
Okay, so if you listen to the podcast, the number 1 pick is going to be
Kevin Durant.
There you go. All right, that's the end of the Cover 2 podcast. There you go. You can hear the music right there as well. Starting Enter Sandman means the end of the Cover 2 podcast. Good podcast today.
Yeah.
A lot of basketball news. Next week, like we said, we're going to be previewing this thing called the Super Bowl, which is a pretty big deal, and we'll be analyzing some of the other stuff too. Probably some more NBA news and some other stuff based on this All-Star game and a lot more information. So make sure to tune in next week. I'm Nick Meenan.
I'm Jared Smith.
And this has been the Cover 2 podcast.